All right, so we are very lucky today to have a guest speaker, Claire Conley, who is going to be speaking about the philosophy of MaxF. She's an expert on this topic and has some great notes prepared for us about this concept. All right, Claire, tell us about MaxF.
Great. I would love to tell you about MaxF. It's a topic that I'm very, very passionate about. So first, let's start with the name MaxF. MaxF is actually short for maximum efficiency, and it is a very efficient term for maximum efficiency. And I didn't invent it. It was passed along by a friend, but it really resonated with me, and I quickly made it a lifestyle. To the point where when I left my last job, my team made me a cake that said, "Stay MaxF." So I've clearly been evangelizing it. To me, MaxF, although it's called maximum efficiency, it's not about just mechanical efficiency and optimization. It's really about making your life better by getting more done and getting more done with ease. We all have a lot of daily operations in our lives, whether it's shopping, cooking, cleaning, doing errands, getting projects done, an endless to-do list. And when you can get a lot of that stuff done and it doesn't feel like a big deal, it doesn't feel overwhelming, then you just have more time and energy for the things that you really enjoy doing, whether that's getting even more done or being with your family or just, watching TV or relaxing. So you're probably thinking, well, how do I be MaxF? I'd say there are a few principles that when I think about MaxF really stand out to me as the key things that help me live that way. The first one is, if you can do something now, just do it now instead of doing it later. This one's probably the simplest one. It's really just about not procrastinating. If there's a small thing, a small task you can just do in a couple of minutes, just get it done. And that really prevents things from piling up and helps you just sort of get things done quickly. The second one would be to make good use of quote unquote dead time. So dead time is small segments of time, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 2 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, where you're waiting around, where you could be getting something done. So often that happens while you're waiting for water to boil, while you have something cooking in the oven. And you can make use of that time by getting other things done while that's happening. So for example, while your water's boiling, you can wash the prep dishes from your meal, or you can put away the clean dishes in the morning while you're waiting for your coffee. So that's one example of just making use of that dead time. And that really helps because then when your meal's done and you're tired and relaxed, you don't have a whole mountain of dishes waiting for you. Half of them are already done. And often that dead time just ends up being used to sort of scroll social media or just be on your phone. It's not very productive. So you can use that time just to get these little tasks done that would pile up and seem big if you waited and did them later, which is very related to the next principle, which is do things in small batches rather than all at once. So instead of making something a big task, like, okay, once a week when I just can't bear how messy the living room is, I go and I spend an hour cleaning it up, try to just tidy it up a little bit at a time as you go. So for example, every time you leave the living room, take one thing that needs to be put away in another room. Or when you notice one little area getting kind of messy, just clean it up quickly for 2 minutes. And that way you never feel like you have to spend time cleaning, but your room always feels tidy. So it's just one example of doing things on an ongoing basis or all the time, rather than making it a big project. And, we probably all have the feeling of like when things really pile up, then it becomes a big deal to get it done. You have to schedule time. It feels stressful, feels emotionally exhausting. If you just sort of build things into your routine, then they just get done quickly and you never have to carve out that big chunk of time. Another one is to have fun with it. The point of MaxF is not to be really serious or extreme and just constantly be optimizing everything. It actually can be kind of fun to find the little things you can get done or the little optimizations in your day-to-day, and you can kind of make a little game of it. It can be a little bit addictive, so you can enjoy that. But if you find that it's getting to be too much, give yourself a break from it. Scroll Facebook, do whatever you want. The goal is not to make your life stressful, it's to make your life better. So just don't take it too seriously. And the last one would be just make it a habit. The idea behind MaxF is that you just, after a while, you don't really think about it. You're just always getting stuff done easily, and you just are MaxF, and people will marvel at you for being MaxF. So that's the philosophy, Michelle.
Claire, that is an awesome explanation. Thank you so much for sharing. A couple quick questions before we depart ways. One is, do you have any examples of fun things you do in your life that are MaxF? Like you talked about having fun with it and making a game. Any inspiration you can share?
That's a great question. Let me think about that for a second. So, one example would be if you have a bunch of errands to run, maybe trying to figure out like the order in which to do the errands so that, maybe you drop off something to be repaired and then you go pick up something else and you come back and pick up the thing that's being repaired. You've kind of just optimized your route or your sequence of the errands so that the whole time is productive time. So you don't have any of that dead time. That could be one example. I mean, this is a sort of nerdy example, but even sometimes figuring out like which corners to cross the street so that you don't hit a bunch of red lights and have to wait. Things like that can be sort of ways of gamifying MaxF, or just making it something that is sort of in the back of your mind and you can have fun with and think, okay, I saved a little time here, I saved a little time there.
And for those who don't know, the term MaxF, can you just explain a little bit about why is it not max efficiency?
Yeah, well, so MaxF, so the max is short for maximum and the F is short for efficiency. So it's actually the most efficient way of saying maximum efficiency.
That's something.
Yeah, I mean, I fell in love with the term when I heard it too. It's what's not to love, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any other questions that would be important to go through. Oh, are there any frameworks that you think are useful thinking through here? I think you've told me once about something when you think about cooking. Like what makes something you cook MaxF?
Yeah, well, I'll kind of come back to those principles of getting a lot done and having it feel easy. So one framework that I thought of once when I was deciding what to make for a dinner party was, what is impressive but not a lot of effort? So you could think of it as a 2x2 of impressiveness versus ease. And I decided that a roast actually fell really well into that top right corner of, generally people are like, oh, you roasted something, but it's not very difficult because you prep it and you put it in the oven and you just leave it there and then you take it out and you've got a beautiful roast. So that's one example of sort of applying a framework like that, you know, applying MaxF to a project like that, where you can say, how can I just get more done easily and not make my life more difficult? Another, thing to keep in mind for something like a dinner party would be maybe making fewer dishes, fewer, more special dishes, instead of trying to make many, many dishes, because I found that many, many dishes is what causes a lot of the complexity and the stress of a meal or hosting. So ways that you can just bring more ease into your life.
I love that. That is really neat example on the dinner parties. That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Claire, thank you so much for being a guest today. This is just such a special treat to have you. And what a great explanation and what a great philosophy to sort of have in your back pocket as you go through life.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to share it with Life School and hope it can help a bunch of other people.